Hello friends. So today we'll discuss about the chapter number 5, that is elementary treatments. So this chapter is based on the second ESA technique, that is a coating method. So already in the chapter number 1 we have discussed about the little bit introduction related to the all ESA technique, that is the introduction related to the photoelasticity, then the introduction related to the coating method, and introduction of the strain gauges, that is how these methods are useful for the stress analysis. Now your chapter number 5, that is elementary treatments, is based on your second ESA technique, that is coating method, means how the coating method is used for the stress analysis. So in this chapter we are going to discuss about the uh, brittle coating method, that is how the brittle coating method is used for the stress analysis, how what is the construction of that particular brittle coating method, what is the working principle of that, on which principle it works, and how the results are calculated to find out the stress values. After that we'll discuss about their advantages, disadvantages, and the applications, that is where this brittle coating method is used, maybe in static applications and maybe in the dynamic application. In addition to that, we are going to discuss about the working principle of the reflection polariscope. Already we have taken the little bit introduction related to the polariscopic device in the chapter number 1, that is in the concept of photoelasticity. Whatever the points we have discussed related to the polariscope, that polariscope is called as the plane polariscope. Now in this chapter we are going to discuss about the reflection polariscope, that is what is the basic construction of reflection polariscope, how it works, and how it is used in the brittle coating method to find out the stress values in the different directions. Then we also will discuss about their advantages and their applications, that means at how many applications that particular reflection polariscopic device is used. Now we'll start one by one. Now initially we'll discuss about the brittle coating methods, as already we have discussed the little bit introduction, that is the brittle coating method is called as a qualitative method. Why it is called as a qualitative method? Because the final result of the brittle coating method is obtained in the quality of figure or the quality of the crack patterns. Whatever the remaining two methods are there, that is the photoelasticity and the strain gauge techniques, these methods are called as a quantitative method, because the final result will be obtained in the form of quantity, that is sigma 1 is equal to 25 newton per mm square, sigma 2 is equal to 50 newton per mm square. But such types of the results are not obtained in the brittle coating method. Therefore this method is called as a qualitative method, means by observing the nature of crack patterns we have to decide that whether stress in that particular component is low, medium, or high. Now initially I will explain the basic principle and the construction of the brittle coating method. If you go through the figure, it consists of a one specimen, that is its specimen is also called as a test specimen. I have to calculate the stresses induced in that particular specimen in the direction of x, in the direction of y, means I have to calculate the value of sigma 1 and I have to calculate the value of sigma 2. So in the brittle coating method, the name itself suggests that in the brittle coating method we have to use one coating material. That material is called as a brittle lacquer. So that coating material, or we have to apply on that particular test specimen, which will be useful for the further stress analysis. Now initially, if I have to take the test specimen, on that particular test specimen I have to apply the layer of coating. That layer of coating may be near about thickness of 5 to 10 mm. Then I have to keep that particular specimen for the curing purpose, that is curing of that particular layer of coating. After that, whatever that space specimen is there, maybe it is subjected to the loading, maybe it is subjected to the moving condition. So due to the loading condition, due to the moving condition, the stresses are induced in that particular test specimen, and whatever the stresses are induced, that stresses are transferred from that particular test specimen to the layer of coating, and due to that transformation the different types of cracks are produced in the layer of coating. If the cracks are produced in only one direction, we can say that the stress developed is low. If the cracks are produced in horizontal as well as in vertical direction, then the stress level is increases. But at one condition, if the cracks are produced in irregular manner, maybe in vertical direction, inclined direction, horizontal direction, at that time we can say that the stress level in that particular stress specimen is very very high. So based on these particular three conditions, we can say that the stress is low, medium, or high. But whatever the layer of coating is applied, that layer of coating, uh, it plays very very important role in the brittle coating method, because there are different types of the factor, different types of the parameters are to be considered in the brittle coating method. That is, the behavior of the coating method is mostly depending upon the different types of parameters. So out of that, the first one is a coating thickness. So whatever the results you will get, whatever the crack patterns are produced in that particular layer of coating, it depends upon the coating thickness. So that thickness of coating also plays very important role for the production of that particular crack patterns. Then coating temperature, because sometimes what happen, if that particular component is in a loading condition, maybe it is in moving conditions, or if that particular test specimen is comes in contact with the temperature, so that particular temperature is also affects on the layer of coating, due to which, due to that particular temperature, there may be possibility to get the some of the faulty results. So initially we have to take care that your test component should not be in contact with the temperature. Then creep in the creep in coating during the testing material. So we know that creep, that is a deformation of body due to the temperature effects. As we know that if any bodies comes in contact with the temperature, there may be possibility of deformation. If the deformation is taking place due to the temperature effect, that concept is called as a creep. So what happen, if that particular test specimen along with the layer of coating is comes in contact with the temperature, there may be possibility of deformation. So if such types of the deformations are taking place due to the temperature, it is very difficult to find out the stress value due to the loading condition of that particular test specimen, or due to its moving condition. So the creep should be minimum in the brittle coating method. Then fourth point is the moisture. So initially, if I will apply the layer of coating on that particular test specimen, there may be possibility of moisture attraction. Whatever the moisture is present, whatever the dust particles are present in the atmosphere, that dust particles, moistures are attracted by that particular layer of coating, and it creates the error during the measurement. So whatever the brittle coating methods are there, whatever the testing we have to carry it out by using this particular method, we have to carry out this particular method at that location where there should be minimum moisture attraction, there should be minimum dust attraction. Then velocity of air flow through over the coating material. So once I will apply the layer of coating on that particular test specimen, that layer of coating is in contact with the atmosphere, it is in contact with the air. So whatever the air is flowing in the atmosphere, that flow of the air is also affects on that particular results of that particular brittle coating. So that care should be also taken. The curing time of the coating. So once the layer of coating is applied on that particular test specimen, it is not possible to take the test directly. So what is the requirement? Once the layer of coating is applied, we have to give some amount of time to cure that particular layer of coating. Once it is properly cured, then and then only we have to go for the testing. So these are the different parameters which are affects on the brittle coating method. So all these parameters are also affects on the results. So the care should be taken based on this particular three parameters. Now we'll discuss about the different crack patterns which are produced in the brittle coating method. So the crack patterns, in the sense, sometimes what happen, if the body is subjected to the force in the direction of x, the stresses are developed in the direction of x. If the body is subjected to the force in the direction of x and y, then stresses are also developed in the direction of x and y. If the value of force is increases beyond the limit, at that time the stresses are induced in number of directions, that is the stresses are induced in the direction of x, y, and the z. So now we'll discuss about the different types of crack patterns in the brittle coating method. If you go through the case number one, in the case number one, it indicates that sigma 1 is greater than 0, sigma 2 is less than 0, and sigma 3 is equal to 0. In all the three cases, whatever the sigma 3 is there, it is equal to 0, because we are not going to focus on the value of sigma 3. Therefore, that sigma 3 is equal to 0 in all the three cases. But we'll focus mostly on the sigma 1 and the sigma 2 calculation. If you go through the case number 1, in that the sigma 1 is greater than 0 and sigma 2 is less than 0, means whatever the case number 1 is there, it is subjected to only calculation of sigma 1. In the case number 1, we are not going to calculate the value of sigma 2, only we are calculate the sigma 1. If you go through the figure, in that vertical line indicates the crack patterns are produced in the direction of y direction. So these particular cracks are produced in the direction of sigma 2, and these cracks are perpendicular to the sigma 1. These cracks are perpendicular to the sigma 1. That means by using the first figure, we can calculate only the value of sigma 1, because the body is subjected to the only one force. If you go through the second case, in that the sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2 is greater than 0, sigma 3 is always equal to 0. And if you go through the figure indicates that the cracks are produced in vertical direction, cracks are produced in horizontal direction. That means this particular body is subjected to the force in the direction of x, in the direction of y. Therefore, the cracks are also produced in the direction of x and y. So whatever the vertical cracks are produced, that vertical cracks are parallel to the sigma 2 and they are perpendicular to the sigma 1. Whatever the horizontal cracks are produced, that horizontal cracks are parallel to the sigma 1 and they are perpendicular to sigma 2. That means the stresses are developed in the both direction, that is in the direction of x and in the direction of y. That means in the case number 1, only one stress is produced, that is sigma 1. That means stress level is low. In the case number 2, the stresses are produced in the both directions, that is sigma 1 and sigma 2 is produced. That means the stress level is somewhat increases and it becomes medium. But in the case number 3, the sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2 is greater than equal to 0. Again, the sigma 3 is equal to 0. If we go through the figure, in the case number 3, the cracks are produced in the irregular manner. So why they are produced in the irregular manner? Because whatever the force is applied on that particular test specimen, that force it increases beyond the limit, and due to that force is increases beyond the limit, the cracks are produced in the irregular manner. They are not produced in the horizontal direction, they are not produced in vertical direction. In any direction the cracks are produced. And if you will get the crack patterns in according to the case number 3, then we can say that the stress level is very high in that particular test specimen. So these are the three cases, that is the crack patterns produced in the brittle coating method. So by observing the nature of the crack patterns, we have to decide that whether stress is low, medium or high. Therefore, we are finding the results based on that particular quality of that particular crack pattern. Therefore, this method is called as a qualitative method. You will get the final result in the form of quality of the crack patterns, in the form of quality of the figure. Therefore, this method is called as a qualitative method. Now we'll discuss about the advantages of the brittle coating method. So the first advantage is it is nearly a whole field stress analysis technique. So this method is also one of the